And we are live this morning in Sutherland Springs, Texas. Chris Welch is near the church this morning with the latest on what's going on there. He's been there throughout the night trying to get more information as we join Chris now live this morning. Chris, what do we know?
Well, the scene here in Sutherland Springs, still very much an active crime scene. You can see just over our shoulder here, the First Baptist Church. Excuse me. Still a crime scene. This is where everything happened yesterday, beginning around 11:30. This community, a very tight-knit, small community of just several hundred people, waking up this morning with answers, more questions, I should say, than answers. Last night they held a vigil, a lot of tears, a lot of hugs, but those tears and hugs, of course, not going to bring back the friends, family members, loved ones who they may have lost. And there's a good chance a lot of people here know someone here they lost. You know, we are talking about an investigation that's not even 24 hours old. And last night we heard from investigators, state officials, the government, in fact, even getting emotional at times. Here's some of what he had to say.
We are dealing with the largest mass shooting in our state's history. There's so many families.
So when this all began around 11:30 yesterday, authorities say this suspect that they're naming as Devin Kelly, a 26-year-old man who began here and went across the street, began firing in the church before he even went inside. He was firing at the church. When he came out, he was actually met by a local resident with a rifle. That local resident started firing at the shooter. The resident flagged down another car driving by. The two of them chased the suspect down, essentially, about 8 miles away. Authorities say they found the shooter with a gunshot wound, dead in the vehicle after it crashed. After this pursuit, you know, the local officials here, the sheriff, praising these two individuals for chasing him and for doing what they did, because they believe this incident, this scene, could have been a lot worse had it not been for their actions. Now, of course, still very much an active investigation. The FBI, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, they're involved. They're assisting state agencies here in the state of Texas. But of course, a lot of questions remain about the shooter, who he is, whether he had any connections here to the town, and not just the town, but to this church, this very small church here right over our shoulder. So a lot of residents here waking up with heavy hearts this morning, trying to figure out what happened. But one thing is for certain, this town will probably never be the same again. Reporting live in Sutherland Springs, I'm Chris Welch. Now back to you.
All right, Chris, I want to ask you, what else do we know about the gunman?
Well, we know very little, but one thing that is emerging, that emerged in the overnight hours, is this bit of information that he was with the U.S. Air Force in a logistics personnel capacity in New Mexico from 2010 until he was discharged, a bad conduct discharge, in fact, in 2014. Now, we've learned that in 2012, he was in fact court-martialed for abuse, that officials say he abused his wife at the time and their young child. So court-martialed in 2012, let go and a bad conduct discharge in 2014. But beyond that, we know very little about this man at this point. We're hoping to, of course, learn more as the day goes on.
Chris, thank you so much. Live in Sutherland Springs, Texas this morning.